When I was younger, during my snowboarding career, I thought making a lot of money and having a very high income and salary was the ticket to become wealthy. And I'll just be honest with you guys, I grew up super middle class. Growing up middle class, there wasn't ever what I felt like was enough. I always heard, you know, can't afford this, we can't afford that. That's just the way I grew up. And I'm not putting anyone down. My parents did a fantastic job of taking care of me, making me feel loved and giving me the support and encouragement I needed as a young kid to grow up and chase my dreams as a snowboarder. But for me, I didn't want to be constrained by money my whole life. And so I thought, hey, if I just become a professional athlete, and I win multiple X Games gold medals and I'm on the covers of magazines and I travel the world and I close down these video parts, that once I make enough, now there won't ever be any more money constraints and I'll be rich. That's really not how it was. The way it was I was extremely busy, which luckily was my passion. I was doing something I really loved. But the more I made, first of all, the more tax was required, which is something I'll get back to in a little bit. The more pressure I felt because, you know, in order to maintain that level of income, the requirement of performance as an athlete, as you can probably imagine, continued to rise higher and higher and higher. And, you know, in my world, for those of you that don't know me, you know, I was a professional snowboarder and we hit a point in my career where we were jumping buildings. And I mean, literally from one building to another, where if you didn't make it, you're likely gonna die. And, you know, that didn't happen overnight, by the way. That happened over decades of experience and practice. But at the peak of my snowboarding career, X Games came out with an event called Real Snow. And I was fortunate and honored to be invited to that event. And that was the event where all of us as athletes that got invited started to take larger and larger and larger risks. So my point being, and for any high income earners that are here listening to this right now, you may be able to relate to this, that as you continue to climb the ladder of success, and you continue to achieve higher and larger accolades, that the requirement of that level of performance be there, and it can be degrading. It can actually wear you out. It can be highly stressful because the level of performance we're talking about in my world as a snowboarder was basically you had to train aggressively and constantly to be at that level so that when the camera came out, when it was time to film, you could handle those types of features without risking my life or dying. And the reality was, as my career started to get closer to the end and I wasn't putting quite as much effort in as I once was, because now I had a family and I had children and had other interests, that's actually when my snowboarding career became the riskiest of my entire career, was at the end, because you had to have so much laser focus at all times. And so if you're listening to this right now and you can relate what I'm talking about, right? Maybe you did really, really well in school and you took this new career and you leveled up and leveled up and leveled up. And maybe your performance is just on autopilot. You habitually can perform at that level. But my guess is most high income earners, most extremely talented individuals that do qualify for that high income, it often comes with a level of stress and obsession that needs to be maintained, or, you know, it's possible that you're gonna get axed. And, you know, for me, that happened. It was a moment in time where I'll never forget when I got a call from one of my brands, and I still remember the call coming in, because I didn't get to talk to this gentleman very much at this company. And so when he called in my career, it was generally a you know, congratulatory phone call. That's when I usually heard from him, until the last call, as you can imagine. I picked the phone up excited, and on the other end came this voice of sounding like someone just died. And it was like this, breezy. And I'm like, yeah, we gotta let you go, man. Budgets have changed. And that's about how long the call was. And so from a 12-year span with this company, which, by the way, they took care of me. They were such a great company. They were so good to me. I have nothing but love for the company. It still ended very abruptly, and it was unexpected. And when that happened, it was a slice, a punch, a gut jab, if you will, of realization that things are going to change. And so what really hit me hardest, and what I want most high income earners that are listening to hear on this, is to start finding ways to create additional income without having to go to work. The best thing I ever did was I read a book by the Rich Dad series, Robert Kiyosaki, called Retire Young, Retire Rich. And it talked about how these couples were investing in different assets, some in businesses, real estate, different assets that created cash flow, so that as they aged, as their professions got more mature, they were building this nest egg of capital that was producing cash flow on the side. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the one thing, if there was one thing that I really would love to share with more people in understanding that you can have freedom. You can get disconnected from your high, intense income lifestyle, and you can build these streams of income that allow you to have more flexibility. Don't make you so dependent on your employer. And there's nothing wrong with being dependent on your employer. What an opportunity they've created. They've built a company where you can go make great money and you can bring a service and provide a value. Phenomenal. The piece that I think is really important, or the piece that I wish I'd have understood at a younger age, was that I can start to take my high income and get it invested into different assets that produce multiple streams of income, so that if, heaven forbid, and for my sake it was when, it wasn't if, it was when I got let go, if something happens to you and you need to make a change, you've got these other streams of income that are super powerful, that are very consistent, that can help offset the day-to-day living expenses you have. That's freedom. That's wealth. And that's the vision I never got as a young kid. I didn't understand what that was until I came across this really powerful book, and I could see it in my mind's eye. And I'll just tell you guys as well, you know, once I realized and saw that picture in my mind's eye, it still took a decade for me to really create a large stream of passive income and multiple large streams of passive income. And so today, you know, my focus is far less on my ordinary earned income and far more on passive income, and anybody can do it. Wealth is not biased, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that I had a hard time understanding too as I was growing up, was that, you know, only these people are, you know, it sounds bad even saying it. It sounds so crazy now to say, but like, this group of people is designated to be wealthy. These people qualify for wealth. These people deserve it. You over here middle class, you don't deserve it. Completely false. I mean, it's just a crazy idea. But if you struggle with that thought, if you're hearing that, find different beliefs, read different books, find other people who grew up poor and became extremely wealthy to put supports under those beliefs so you can take action. But for those of you that are making really great income, you have high income, you got high stress, you've got incredible work hours, just think about this concept. Think about this idea of, how do I start to take some of that high income, readjust my lifestyle potentially, which I needed to do. You know, there was a period of time where I was spending more than I really should have been, and I needed to start investing more. So I downsized my car, I downsized my house. There was actually a time where I sold our house. My wife wasn't super excited about that, but while my snowboarding career was getting into its later stages, I wanted the equity out of the home. So I liquidated the home and I invested in the different assets to start creating cash flow, multiple streams of income. Now, I'm not saying you need to do that. I'm not saying you need to be that extreme, but at least start to find ways, start to create plans with your husband or significant other. At least consider the idea of restructuring some of your income and expenses, maybe offloading some of your bad debt, and figure out how you can create ways to get nest eggs to start to go to work for you. Maybe you can do 50,000 a year, maybe it's 100,000 a year, maybe it's 500,000 a year, but whatever your number is, how can you start to get that capital working for you so that you don't have to be a slave to your job? So you don't have to go out and finish 100% of the income for the family. So you don't have to be 100% reliant on one employer that may have a change of heart, may have a change of management, may have a change of budget. And that's really what happened for me. But company went public and I was a line item, and that line item did not match the valuation of the stock, and so the line item needed to go away. That was me. If you can see a future coming where you've got a change coming, right? If you can see retirements coming, if you can see that you just would like to have less dependency on your level of income, you can do it. Start to carve off some of that income. See if your CPA can help you align you into investments to be more tax efficient. That's another huge piece that just doesn't get talked about enough, and it's not known enough, is that all CPAs are not created equal. They are not going to give you the same advice. Just like if you go to the doctor, not every doctor is created equal, right? Not every professional athlete is created equal. Everyone's got different skills, different obsessions, right? Different levels of knowledge. Same with CPAs that handle your tax law. The tax law is deep. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. There's going to be some CPAs who are far more obsessed with the tax law. There's going to be some that are far more efficient with real estate. The best change I made was getting a CPA that understood real estate and understood where I was financially. And then we co-created a 5-year plan. And that 5-year plan is something I worked diligently month after month for 60 months straight with my CPA kind of quarterbacking the plan. And that plan changed my life. And I'm telling you guys, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I didn't even go to college, okay? But that doesn't mean you can't hire A students, right? I can tell you right now, our legal team, she was top of her class. And I know it because it's in her resume. I can tell you my CPA was top of his class. I love those A students. Those A students, if you're not an A student, listen to me right now. Those A students can help you build extreme wealth. Put them in their strength zones. My strength zone is not CPA, accounting, legal work. There's no skill there. I don't have that skill. I was just the athlete, right? I'm just the dumb guy that likes to put people together and create a plan and we all go together. I'm the dumbest guy in the room with a bunch of super smart people. Perfect. Be humble. Put your ego away. What really, really blows me away, you guys, is how many people act like they've got it all figured out, but they struggle financially their whole life. They act like they know what they're doing, but they struggle financially. And I know they struggle financially because I know how much they work. If you ask most people, hey, do you like working 40, 50, 60 hours a week for somebody else? You might have a small percentage that are honest and say, yeah, this is really what I want to be doing. But if I'm guessing, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say the majority of the population would love to be able to work less and make a little bit more. I don't know anybody who wouldn't like that. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, you guys, comment ready below. We help people take their high income, get it invested into assets that produce cash flow that can appreciate through value add strategies. Value add strategies could consist of an example we're doing right now. We just closed on a 229 unit apartment in Plano, Texas, a B asset in an A+ location. We put $4,000 invested into a unit, and then we go and lease it to the community, the submarket, and we get a $250 rent increase because of the $4,000 investment. You take 250 times 12 months, it's $3,000 of increased income. That $3,000 divided by a 6 cap, which is being conservative, is about $50,000 of value. So we put $4,000 in for $50,000 of value. Okay, so we've got $46,000 of profit on one unit. Now, if we can go do that to 230 units, start doing the math on what that is. That's how we force value. That's how we force creation of wealth. That's how our investors can come alongside us. And our investors, by the way, they're not a part of any of that. Our investors are analyzing, saying, do these guys have a serious track record? Have these guys done this over and over and over again? Have these guys had great home runs? Have they had some failures? Have they learned their lessons? Have they been through a recession? Are they actually a serious company? And once that verification is yes to all those, now they can come along with 100, 200, 300 grand, and their capital can come alongside with us. By the way, our capital is in every deal, 100% of deals. We have almost 1,000 investors, I'll tell you guys, right now at Granite Towers. And of the 1,000 investors we have, we can see who has the most capital invested with us from the top to the bottom. I'm number 3. So I just want you to hear, my capital is tied up in these deals heavily. Yeah, sure, we've got some super wealthy people that have put in some really, really, really big money. But I just want you guys to hear right now, Mike and I, we're at the top with our capital, the money we've made throughout our entire lives, invested right at the top of the pack because we believe in these deals. So if you want to learn more about what we're doing, comment ready below. We'd love to learn more about what you're doing. We'd love to see how we can help you offset taxes, help create some cash flow, and ideally create more freedom. That's the name of the game in real estate.